When I was reprimanded and eventually booted by Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which is the largest broadcast network of locally owned affiliates across the country, and I at the time was working for an ABC affiliate, for what they alleged was my myriad of sins in my reporting about Donald Trump during his first term, I felt so completely alone. Hi, my name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. At the time, I was winning broadcast journalism awards for investigative reporting, kicking ass on investigative stories, and well-liked by the viewers. But that did not matter to the corporate overlords at Sinclair. And before long, they found a way to throw me out the door. Just the same way that CNN recently did to Jim Acosta, that MSNBC did to Joy Reid, and now add Terry Moran of ABC News to that list. So it turns out that I was going to be the first, or like in a very esteemed group of journalists that were going to be attacked by their employers for reporting the truth about the Trump administration or regimes. And also I want to throw John Harwood in there too, formerly of CNN, a top-notch reporter. If you fly too close to the sun with your facts and your truth-telling and your reporting, and in this case, the sun being Donald Trump, you will be gone. Trust and believe. I lived it. And so, Terry, if you happen to catch this, these are the tweets that got me in huge trouble with my managers at Sinclair. For background, I had a personal Twitter account. In fact, it's the very same one that I still use today. And I also had a corporate public Sinclair Twitter account, which I deleted when I left the network. And here's the one that I was, here's tweet number one. Okay, this is shortly after Trump's first inauguration in 2017. Vanity Fair put this headline out. Trump's dark, raw partisan speech shocks Washington. And if you recall, his speech at the time was American carnage, American carnage. Like it was like something from like a Marvel or just like awful. He was like a super villain. And so I reposted or retweeted that, saying, with record unemployment, job creation, lower crime rates, and booming stock markets, what America is real Donald Trump seeing? Those are just observable facts. In much the exact same way as Trump's second inauguration, President Obama, like President Biden, left us with record low employment, booming stock markets, job creation, and low crime rates. And so I'm simply on my personal account, but also making an observable statement of facts. What America is Donald Trump seeing? He did the same thing this time with President Biden. What could possibly be construed as biased or controversial about that? Oh, but just hold the phone. Just wait a minute. Okay, that's tweet number one. And then as President Obama was departing office, he put this out. It has been the honor of my life to serve you. You made me a better leader and a better man. And I just put 3 hearts over that. 3 hearts. That was it. That was it. Oh, but just, don't you know, those were unforgivable sins in the world of the Sinclair Broadcasting Group. Oh, no. I was called in for a meeting with my general manager, with my news director, and the head of our local HR department. And here you can see this lovely email, January 24th, 2017, to Suri Crowe, our discussion Monday Twitter. Suri, thanks for meeting with HR person and me today about your Twitter account. Please remember that what you do on social media, work and personal, not only reflects on you, but also the company. Someone could interpret your tweets and retweets as media bias because a majority of them are anti-Trump and pro-Obama, which, by the way, is categorically false. I have 2 examples below from Friday. In one, you wrote hearts for President Obama. God forbid I put 3 hearts over our 2-term president when he's saying it's been the honor of a lifetime to serve as our president. Oh, so controversial. It's okay to hold those in power accountable. I don't know. Is it, Scott, the news director? Because you sure don't like it when I do that for Donald Trump. But your tweets and retweets should cover a breadth of topics, not just point out what some say President Trump is doing wrong. You say you are not biased, and I appreciate that. But you don't want to have the appearance of either. Blah, 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 read Sinclair's media policy, blah, 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 which George K's, my general manager at the time, sent me. So, Those two tweets, completely innocuous, in my opinion, like nothing controversial about them at all. That was the beginning of the end for me at Sinclair. Really, it was when I was doing honest reporting during the campaign run-up, when I got in trouble for reporting honestly about climate change and had to report what Donald Trump said, that it was a hoax. And you can go back and actually look up those stories when I first started here at MeidasTouch. And 7+ years later, ABC News has now fired Terry Moran for tweeting this honest assessment of Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. And if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, this is what Terry Moran put out, I don't know, it was about a week and a half ago, maybe. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that is not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who's richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred only a means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. Scathing? Yes. But honest? Also, yes. And for that, Terry Moran was first suspended and now terminated by ABC News of the $16 million extortion bribe that they paid out to Donald Trump for their star anchor, George Stephanopoulos, also being honest about Donald Trump. Like their stars are doing honest reporting about Donald Trump. Donald Trump gets mad and then they bend the knee, fold, pay him millions and millions of dollars or fire people. And you know what? Pray tell ABC News management, what is the difference between that tweet that Moran put out and Jake Tapper's and CNN's nonstop onslaught of attacks against President Joe Biden? Many of those attacks, which have been debunked, by the way, in the pimping of Jake Tapper's horrible book, or Fox's daily onslaught of outright lies. Outright lies. So many lies that Fox has already been forced to pay out a $787 million in a settlement to Dominion voting systems because of one lawsuit that they lost for blatantly lying to their viewers about Dominion voting systems. And there are 2 other lawsuits teed up and potentially ready to go. At least Terry Moran was not lying in his tweet. And as Mehdi Hasan, another brutally honest and also brilliant journalist who was also pushed out by MSNBC for his reporting, his truthful reporting about the genocide that Israel is waging in Gaza, pointed out on X. Terry Moran being suspended by ABC News is ironic, given Moran went out of his way to not embarrass Trump over the president's delusion about the doctored MS-13 photo, repeatedly saying, quote, let's agree to disagree and let's move on. But they still got him suspended, now terminated. You cannot appease these people ever. It is so true. You cannot appease corporate media overlords. They are in the tank for Trump. I learned the hard way, and sadly now has Terry Moran. And for reference, here is the clip of that exclusive interview that Terry Moran snagged with Donald Trump.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
He had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshopped? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Don't look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't
Take a look
there,
at the
but
photograph.
they're there now, right?
No,
but
they're in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look.
It's you do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say it? Yes, he does, and go on to something else.
It's contested.
Now, many journalists, Mehdi Hassan and myself included, thought that Moran was beyond gracious and too polite with the delusional, clearly dementia-ridden Donald Trump, who was insisting that these MS-13 tattoos on Garcia Abrego's hands were real when they clearly had been photoshopped. And even after that, the fascist Trump White House went after him with a vengeance. An odious child of the corn, which is my favorite moniker for her ever. And I have to credit that to Steve Schmidt, who gave that to her. Caroline Leavitt went on Fox and called for ABC News to fire Terry Moran.
We have made so many significant and much needed changes to press access and transparency at the White House. We've invited in new media. We have shaken up the White House press pool. We will continue to keep or hold journalists accountable. All we're asking for is truth and transparency. That's it.
Of course. And you said ABC is going to take action. What do you expect that action to be?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, hopefully this journalist will either be suspended or terminated. You cannot go on these unhinged rants against administration officials and the president of the United States.
Actually, Caroline, you can go on a rant against any government official as long as it doesn't constitute an actual threat of harm that is protected under the First Amendment, also known as freedom of speech, something that your fascist authoritarian boss does not want Americans to have. But your boss, Trump, does it all day long, all of the time. We have been subjected to his unhinged rants and lies about Presidents Obama and Biden for years. And I would argue those two potentially have cases for slander against Trump because of what he said. And then she says, we're just asking for transparency and holding journalists accountable. I mean, I just can't. She's a joke, a dangerous propagandist, but she's a joke. She's got an entire cadre of right-wing MAGA influencers posing as journalists in the Brady press room these days. It is ridiculous. Like, the Washington press corps, in my opinion, has epically failed for several years, going back to the Obama administration, where they blew up at him for wearing a tan suit, to the horrible way that they treated President Biden, to now the way they just give pass after pass to Donald Trump. Like, they themselves are not, like, I don't take many of them very seriously, period, anyway. But now she's got MAGA influencers in there. It's just ridiculous. Like, you can't take her or that press room seriously anymore, which is really sad, because we need legitimate, Gold Star journalist in there. And speaking of one Gold Star journalist who is no longer in that press room, here's the always classy Jim Acosta weighing in on the situation.
As somebody who has been in Stephen Miller's crosshairs, as somebody who's gone toe-to-toe with Stephen Miller, I did it back in August of 2017 in the White House briefing room when he and I went round and round over the meaning of the Statue of Liberty, when he tried to whitewash the meaning of the Statue of Liberty with white supremacist talking points. That was when I learned what Stephen Miller was all about. They would swear up and down inside the White House that Stephen was not all about that. But he came after me with language that, as it turned out, was very incendiary. He was saying that I had a cosmopolitan bias. These are things that white supremacist websites were using to go after their targets back in the day. Kind of convenient there that Stephen Miller would use the same kind of language. Anyway, the fact that he went after me in that fashion, the fact that he has been Trump's main propagandist on the issue of immigration and demonizing immigrants ever since Trump started running for the White House, accusing migrants of being part of an invasion in this country and so on. I mean, that kind of language comes from somebody who hates, somebody who has hate in their heart. And I have to say, when I saw Terry Moran's tweet over the weekend, and again, I don't mean to insert myself into this situation, but people want to know what I think. I think Terry hit the nail on the head. I think Terry was stating things exactly right. And maybe he felt because he was working for a big news organization that he had to take that tweet down, or perhaps they told him to take it down. I don't know what the circumstances are. But what he was saying in that tweet was true. I believe Stephen Miller, based on my experience covering him, has hate in his heart. I think it's what drives him. I think it's what drives his aggressive posture inside the White House when he lashes out at officials inside the administration that their mass deportation numbers are not high enough. I don't like to think that about another human being, and there aren't many human beings in the world that I think that about. But I do believe that at the end of the day, in the final analysis, Stephen Miller, you have hate in your heart. Donald Trump, you have hate in your heart. When you have hate in your heart, you have no business being in charge of this country. You have no business being the commander-in-chief of this country. You have no business being the president of the United States of this country. What Terry Moran said was true. And that's what people in the press should be doing right now, without worrying about the consequences, without fear or favor. They should be telling you, the American people, the truth, what's at the heart of the matter. And what we're seeing driving the situation to the brink in Los Angeles tonight is hate. Hate in the hearts of some of the people who run this country.
So incredibly well put, Jim. So to put a bow on it, in 2017, when I was thrown out of my newsroom unceremoniously, I felt alone and humiliated, and I left news for a couple of years. And I said, I'm not coming back because I was so traumatized. But now looking back, I realized that I was going to be in a very special club. Yeah, because it takes brave reporters to speak the truth in a corporate media environment. Brave journalists like Terry Moran and Jim Acosta and Mehdi Hasan and Katie Fang and Joy Reid and Jim Harwood and many others out there, many others who you don't hear about, who are not as famous. So wear that dismissal from your corporate news overlords and from ABC News like a badge of honor, Terry, because unlike your former employer, you did not bend the knee to a wannabe dictator fascist. And we, the people, we thank you for that. And for me, to every journalist out there who has been attacked for reporting the truth, for those of you who aren't making headlines, I want to tell you, I've been in your shoes. I know exactly how awful it feels like to be attacked day in and day out. Because let me tell you, my experience at Sinclair left me with a form of PTSD. They were relentless in their attacks against me. It was day after day as I was doing back-to-back live shots. Like we're speaking on live TV in front of thousands of people. I would be hauled into my boss's office and just berated. Like the humiliation that these corporate overlords will go to just to make you feel like shit when you're doing an outstanding job. So my heart goes out to people who, especially for those of us who don't have the multi-million-dollar contracts like Joy Reid and Moran and Jim Acosta. But let me tell you, I lived it. I got through it, and I'm so much happier on the other side in terms of rebuilding my news career. So anyway, thank you all for watching. We need good journalists. We need honest reporting, and reporting for today, the MeidasTouch Network. This is Suri Crowe. Peace out.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.